We should be like down at the end of the couch because I think the light's better.
That's true. The light is better.
There we go. Oh, that's much better.
Oh, yes. That is much better. Welcome to our living room.
Yes,
we finally
our newly painted living room.
Yes. All these walls were actually paneling, that wood paneling that people had painted an ugly color over it. We have mudded over it with spackle and painted it, and it is a brand new room.
Yeah. I wish you could see it because Tiffany has really done an amazing job. Like I've helped a little bit, but it's been mostly Tiffany with the mudding, several coats of mudding, several coats of paint.
Your dad helped
several
a
different
ton
colors
too, and your sisters helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like wiped from this project, but you know what? It looks awesome and I love it. Hello, friends in Detroit and in Cali and in Paris. Ooh.
I once told Tiffany that if she ran a marathon, I would buy her a shopping spree to Paris.
Yeah, that will never happen. I don't want to run a marathon. I will take the shopping spree though.
You don't get that without running the marathon. I don't think so.
Motherhood is a marathon.
That is true.
So I think
that is true. But that was not the bet.
You didn't define marathon.
Wow. It's so awesome
Ohio,
how many people.
London, Texas, Colorado,
Germany,
Montana, the Netherlands, Chicago, Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So cool. I'm so glad you guys are all here with us.
Yeah. Is it warm where everyone is?
Homemaker, hi. Bethany Bowman, hi.
Oh, hey, Bethany.
The Philippines, Memphis. Yeah, it's been really warm here. Oh, we wanted to start this week's Q&A. And by the way, feel free to comment any questions you have that you want to talk about. But we wanted to ask you all a question to start, which is, what do you do to rest? Like something we've been thinking about lately is I'm like addicted to being productive and to being busy. And I have this huge, ginormous to-do list and I cannot get through it. And it is so hard for me to slow down and like rest.
Oh.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, we have such a sweet comment from Zoe. Thank you so much. The encouragement. We always appreciate the encouragement.
We really do.
Tiffany especially spends so much time thinking about and editing these videos. So the encouraging words are always
partly
appreciated.
Because I'm a perfectionist. And so I'm like, oh, that one word there needs to come out. And I go over it like 10 times for one word. And I'm getting better. I'm just being like, it's okay. It's good enough. But yeah, no, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So as we go through our time together today, feel free to at any point just comment how you rest, like what helps you rest.
And it doesn't need to be something super spiritual either. Like I do a teenage boys small group at our church, and teenage boys are about as out of touch with their feelings as is humanly possible. But we were talking about, but they did a really good job talking about the things that they do to rest. Playing video games, sleeping, some classics, fishing. But I think there's two kinds of rest. There's rest that like allow you to take a break from thinking. Because sometimes you need a break from your thoughts.
Right now.
And so like I know for Tiffany that's like watching TV. For me that's like playing basketball. But then you also need like rest where you really can think deeply about yourself, about life, about God. So I guess I like to think that there's like two kinds of rest.
I think that's really good. Yeah. And I think sometimes the veg out rest is the one I want more than anything. But I think they're both important.
You need both. It's so easy to like kind of run yourself ragged.
Yeah.
Because there's always more to do than there is time. Someone writes, Jessica writes, adult coloring books.
That's I have one.
You do?
I've had it for 2 years and I haven't colored a single page in it.
I've not used it at all.
So clearly I need to do that. That's a really good idea. Read the Bible, watching Netflix. Yeah, girl.
Someone who admits they're really bad at resting. Hey, that's a good start, Catherine.
Me too. Ooh, a hammock with a good book. That sounds fantastic. We should get a hammock. Music and reading more books. Getting lost in a good book, man. It is so relaxing. My problem with that is then I don't put it down. And so then I stay up. There have been nights before I became a mom when I stayed up literally till 4 a.m. reading a book because I couldn't stop. Was this when we were married? No, it hasn't. It was like when I was single.
Okay.
And that was not as restful as it first started off. So I think my like addictive nature or something is like, I can't stop once I've started.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I love reading books. You stay indoor and read a book. I watch YouTube and Netflix. Really bad at resting, but a face mask. Ooh, nice.
I don't think I'll
bikes.
be trying a face mask.
I want you to do a pedicure.
I'm not going to do
would
that
love
either.
It would be amazing.
No, I don't think I would.
You would. Riding bikes or hikes.
Too. Ooh,
These
swimming outside.
That's good.
That makes me want to go swimming in a lake.
Changing your environment. That's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, here's a question. What is our opinion on tattoos?
Oh, yeah.
I would never get one because I'm scared of needles.
Me too. I'm scared of the pain.
I don't have any tattoos.
My siblings have them, but I'm like, you guys are so brave.
I think I don't. To me, I don't
never do that.
I don't think it's a right or wrong issue. I think that it's something that's typically with you for the rest of your life. So I think that, to me, I would want it to be something I wanted to remember the rest of your life. Like I know a lot of people who have tattoos for like family members or friends they've lost, and that I guess that makes sense to me.
I think like a lot of people have. I've heard this question from a lot of people. I think because of that passage in the Old Testament that talks about not putting a mark on your body.
Oh.
Which I think like that's like an Old Testament rule, and I don't think that like we're under the New Covenant and Christ, and I don't think that applies to our lives as Christians. So. Yeah, I think that's a question a lot of people have. That's a great question. And I think I saw one up here that we missed from Jessica. I'm 20. I'm sorry. If I seem tired, it's because Natalie just screamed for an hour and 10 minutes, which she never does. And that just like wipes me out. It's like psychologically. Yeah.
It's really unnerving.
It's like so. So if I look tired, that's why, because we just listened to baby scream for a while. It was great fun.
That is not restful.
Being here with you guys is so much better. Thank God she's not crying anymore. Okay, Jessica's question. I'm 25 and don't know what to do with my life, professionally speaking. How do I maximize where I am now, even with so much uncertainty? Wow, that's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Yeah. I mean, you're welcome to tell us more about your situation. I mean, I think I would focus on primarily two areas. I think sort of becoming financially independent in the sense that you're able to work your way towards a job where you can, support yourself. You can have a house, or you can have like a room with roommates. You don't necessarily still need to live with family. You can, have your own transportation, and start to kind of develop your own life. When you're able to have a job where you make enough money to support yourself, you can start to develop friendships and invest in the church community.
I mean, you can do that before you have a job too.
Yeah, that's true.
But do you mean like kind of start with what job she has and like keep growing and building up to a career? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I guess someone could think, oh, I have this job at Old Navy and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So I'm just going to like keep working at Old Navy and living with my parents. I have no idea if that's your situation.
So like having goals that you're working towards.
Yeah. But you might say, the Old Navy job is fine, but I'm just gonna try for something else, even for no other reason than it pays me more money so that I can, live on my own and pay for my own car and start saving money and give money away. But I think another big thing, especially when you're 20s, is you want to work at a job where someone is mentoring you so that you can develop life skills, and not just life skills, but also professional skills. So, it's totally fine to invest in a job as like an office manager or working in a hospital for a couple of years. And then at some point say, you know what, I'm done doing this and I'm going to go learn something else and do something else. I think that's totally fine.
And it could even be that you need to search for someone who can help mentor you professionally. Like it might not be in your job. There's like this group that James is a part of where they hook up mentors who are like people who've been professionals for years and like young people like James's age who get mentored professionally. They just like meet together regularly. It's like a local thing they do. So you could look for something like that. Stephanie says pedicures and face masks are good hygiene.
You are entitled to your opinion.
No, that is true.
Maybe for you.
There's this guy who we know who's like the manliest man ever, and he goes and gets pedicures. And I'm like, James, if he can do it,
works for him.
You can do it.
I'm just not interested.
I think he'd love it.
Ooh, Morgan has a good question. Tips to stop comparing yourself to other women.
Oh my goodness. That I struggle with that so much. I do have a video about how to stop comparing. Those are some things that have helped me, but this is like an ongoing struggle in my life that I keep like getting a little further along, I guess you could say, and like, well, not further along, but just like, it's like layers of an onion, you like peel off one layer, and you're like, yes, I worked through that, and then there's another layer, and peel that off. Right now, the layer is motherhood. And like, it's so easy to compare myself to other moms and be like, look how amazing she is being a mom, or like, look how much her baby's doing. Like, one of the things for us is like, Natalie doesn't crawl and she's 10 months old. And like, I didn't crawl till I was 10 and a half months, and I like walked a week later. But Natalie's like super interested in walking, but like she doesn't crawl. And I will just compare other babies, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my child? What am I doing wrong as a mom? She's not crawling. And there can be like a head game. And so James always, it helps to like have him with me. And when I start doing it and he notices, he's like, sweetie, stop smoking. It's bad for you. That's what he calls comparison.
Yeah. Comparison, really, it's like smoking. It's very easy to do. It's sort of relaxing. You can get really involved in it, but it really is like smoking. It is not healthy. It is not
It's
healthy.
like not good for your health. Yeah.
We really haven't answered the question.
That's
like,
true.
What are some tips?
Yeah. I think one of the things for me is just to like purposefully remember that their life, the way I don't see their whole life. And like, the more I get to know people, the more I realize that these people whose lives seem so perfect, there's like, they have their stuff that I don't see, and their brokenness or their struggles, and sometimes really hard things they're working through. And so to remember, like, I don't see what their struggles are. I don't see those negative parts, but they're there. Like, we all have them. And that helps me feel more normal. And then also just like talking to other people, like even with the mom stuff, and realizing like, I'm not the only mom who feels this way. Like, pretty much every mom I've ever met compares herself to other moms. And so just to know, like, it's not just me. I'm not like the odd one out, but like comparison is something we all struggle with on some level. That would be my 2 tips off the top of my head. Also, that video, how to stop comparing yourself, is some more.
Yeah. I'm not a woman. I guess my opinion would be, I've personally found that being thankful helps a lot, and finding specific things. One of the elders at our church gave a message about where he said, I challenge each of you to find 3 things each day that you're thankful for and write them down. He said, because then you're thankful in the moment, and then you're thankful in the evening when you write them down. And I really have found, I don't write them down, but I do like think about them on my way home from work. And it is really helpful to be like, wow, I'm thankful for this, and I'm thankful for that. And times when I'm tempted to be really down, those things are helpful.
That's
at least for
advice.
me.
Yeah, gratitude.
So, hey, we have Georgiana, someone watching from Venezuela.
Ooh.
How are you guys doing? At least I'm just so concerned about what's happening down there. And at least all I know is what I read in like the national news here in the US. And it seems just very, very concerning. So we're praying for our Christian brothers and sisters down there.
We have a question from Alexandria that says, how do you both deal with weariness and exhaustion? Which I'm experiencing right now after listening to Natalie scream.
Yeah. I think it's so important to really take a Sabbath.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, our pastor had some really good words about this recently when he was doing a series on rediscovering your soul. His tagline was, how would you like, without changing your job, an extra 7 weeks of vacation every year? What he was saying is, you need to treat Sunday as if it were a vacation day. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that idea, this idea that, yes, you want to rest spiritually, but in order to rest spiritually, you need to be able to rest physically. You need to have that day where you're like, all right, and this is tough for me. I have to spend some time thinking about what would be relaxing for me to do. Because sometimes when you're like so tired, it takes a little bit of time to think about, all right, what would really help me other than just collapsing? What would be like, not just like, oh, I'm tired, I need to sit down, but like what would be kind of rejuvenating? It takes an effort to spend some time thinking about that. I think that's a big thing God said that the Sabbath was created for us to enjoy. And I think that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I was reading recently, I forget what book, but it talked about how God didn't give us this, or maybe the pastor said this, God didn't give us the Sabbath as like, you got everything done, good job, now you can rest. Instead, he gave it to us like, whether or not you get everything done, it's still your day to rest. Like, this is a gift to you. And so I think that is so important. And also just like practicing solitude, like having some times that you practice kind of focusing your mind and getting away from all those distractions. Because for me, it's exhausting to live with constant thoughts and like worries in my head. And so each morning I try to meditate for like 5 minutes, and I'll literally set my timer for 5 minutes. And every time I get distracted, I just bring my mind back to like the present moment, and usually I have like a scripture passage I'm thinking about. And that helps me kind of take some of those crazy, exhausting, constant thoughts and just focus on the present. And that's helpful too.
That's good.
So.
Oh, I've been reading some of these other questions. This is from Catherine. This is really good. Tips with women in leadership. I've been in leadership positions in my church's college ministry, and I struggle how to lead biblically as a woman because it's a mixed gender group.
I don't know if I can do that justice on the spot.
Yeah. I remember when Tiffany and I were dating, we had this, I still remember it, where we were shopping together. We had this very intense discussion about whether it was okay for a woman to preach in church. And at the time I was like, I don't think that's in the Bible. And Tiffany was like, I would preach at a church. And we were like at this like impasse. This is like, is this an argument? I don't know if it's an argument. It's just a philosophical difference. And I don't know exactly what was all said, but I just remember that.
I don't remember what was said either.
It's a charged issue. It really is. But I guess I would say I'm pretty certain the Bible calls men to be pastors, the leaders of a church. But I don't know that I would call I think a college ministry is not a church. I mean, it's a group of students who are trying to learn and love God together. And I think being in a leadership position like that, like their college ministry is not a substitute for church. It's kind of a part of a church. And so I don't think you need to feel any sort of resistance and using your gifts. And I've like come to believe now that some women do like have a gift of teaching, and that it is okay for a woman to preach on Sunday. I
think we differ a little bit on some issues like this. I tend to be a little more like, yeah, it's fine. And James is more like, probably not fine. So what I would feel more comfortable with a question like this is making a video about it that I can like thoroughly think through how I want to present it. And what I would probably do is present resources on both sides of the issue, like how people do study the Bible and come to conclusions, some of which are like, no, it's not okay, some of which, yes, it is okay. That's what I would be more comfortable, because with questions like this, I think it's most important that you know how to look at both sides of the discussion and come to your own conclusions based on scripture and Bible study and how you're reading. And I think it's helpful to see how different people approach that. And I think you will find Christians on a wide gamut in that area. And I think, personally, I think that's okay. I think that's one of the beautiful things about how big God is. And so I think the big thing is you're looking at scripture, you know how to look up both sides of the issue through scripture and what they're looking at, and kind of figure out, what do I believe? And I have a video called What Do I Believe on Controversial Issues that might be able to help you there. So even for us, we don't fully agree on this topic.
We don't. And I guess what Tiffany's saying is, I disagree with James, what James says, and watch for video soon. That's what I took out of that.
No, but in answer to your question, I think it's totally fine to be leading a Bible study. And I think that that's amazing you're asking this question, like, is it okay? Because that's an important question to ask and to really look at, like, what does the Bible really say and what does it mean? But my personal opinion is I think that's totally fine for you to be doing.
Yeah, I think much more important is, do you have like a team of people supporting you? Are you accountable to others? You know, are you leading in a healthy way?
Yeah.
I really like this question from Kayla. So she's been going to a new church for a year and still only knows some people on the surface level. How does she get to people know on a deeper level, and how to have adult friendships with people a decade or two older than you? So one idea I had, and this is not an answer, this is an answer, is I think a lot of times if you go up to and approach people and you're like, hey, could we get coffee sometime? And you just do this to like 10 people. I mean, most people could be like, oh yeah, let's do it. Some people you'll never connect with. It's kind of like the parable of the sower and the seeds. But some people, you'll go out to coffee and it'll be like, all right, that's cool. And if you do it enough, you'll start to know, oh, I really connected with this person. We had a genuine connection. And other times it was like, yeah, that was fun, but it wasn't a really strong connection. And I think a lot of times in that kind of that one-on-one, you get to know someone better. And sometimes you get to know someone better and realize, we don't have a deep connection. But other times realize, wow, there really might be something there. And I think especially for older people, a lot of times they have like small children. But if you were like, hey, could I come over and hang out sometime?
Like
again,
you and your kids,
you ask 10
whatever.
people,
Yeah.
probably you're going to be able to go out and hang out with some people and get to know them better. And then again, see if there's a connection.
Yeah. Cool. And I think too, what has really helped me, because a church I previously went to is like very large, like thousands of people, and it was so easy to just get lost in it. And when I joined the worship team at one of the campuses, it was like such a tight-knit group. Like we all just hung out together every week, like before and after the service. And I felt like they became like really good friends. Like we were kind of like a family. And like, I think that kind of like getting involved in some way. And then at our current church, like we joined a small group of young married couples, and I feel like we just love them all and we gain community from it. So I think getting involved in some way helps a ton. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah. Oh, and Kayla has a follow-up question that I like. Been texting with the guy for over a week. We knew each other in college. He's been messaging back paragraphs.
Wow.
And wants to hang out. Is he interested?
Oh, wow. I mean, most guys don't just text paragraphs for fun.
That's true.
Right?
Well, I would say
there's an exception to every rule, but
I would say he's interested in hanging out.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to hang out with him. And he's probably, he probably doesn't know. Do I have romantic feelings?
Like, am I interested in being a friend or more than a friend? He might not know.
Both of you might not know.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to have to hang out. And I think, I say this all the time. This video should be promoted by like coffee shops. Like, go out for coffee. It's like $5 tops.
Yeah.
It can be 15 minutes if it's awkward. It can be like an hour and a half if you're having a great time. There's just so much flexibility.
One time it was like
place,
2.5 hours when I did that. Because the guy talked the entire time and I never hung out with him again.
Yeah. And so the thing is, if you go and hang out, you can very quickly find, that's not going to go anywhere for me. Rather than be over text, you can be like wondering for a while. But I think
he's probably intrigued. And you probably got to get to know more to know. But I want to comment, Anastasia said, in Germany, it's easier to rest on Sunday because we have laws for it. Like the shops are all closed. Oh, wow. Like all the shops are closed.
We remember when we were in, I think, Switzerland or France.
Oh, somewhere.
France, maybe. Yeah. We tried to like go to the grocery store and it was closed on Sunday. And
it was like 8 p.m. on Sunday. It closed, I think.
There was like nothing
We were like,
open.
where do we get food? I was so hungry.
Ate.
I don't know if I ate anything.
We didn't have a ton to eat. Yeah.
But yeah, I love hearing your comments about resting. Keep them coming, like what helps you rest. Yeah, if you like joined since the beginning, we said throughout this, just comment the things that help you rest. So, Carlo, can you please differentiate attraction and lust? Ooh, great question. I unintentionally noticed a woman who has this nice body. Would you say that that's lust or an attraction? I think, I don't know if you've said this or someone else, but I think for guys and girls both, lust is like noticing somebody or that they're attractive. That's not lust. Lust is what you do with that in your mind. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think to answer your question, what you're describing is not lust. That's very normal. I mean, if you see something that you think is beautiful, whether it is a woman or a man or a car.
Or a sunset.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, lusting is when you're like, oh my goodness. You make it much more sexual.
Yeah, and it like you play it out in your head. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Oh, this is from Georgina.
Oh, the update on Venezuela. Yeah, guys, if you haven't read about what's going on in Venezuela, read some of the news stories. It's just, it's awful. People don't have enough food. They can't get medical treatment. Millions of people from Venezuela have left the country to try to support their families and live elsewhere. It's really sad.
Yeah. Thank you for that update. Blessing Heart, what should you do to get back on track with God? Now I just lost it. When you've been struggling. I actually have a video called What to Do When It's Been a While, how to get back on track with God. Definitely check that out. But I think the biggest thing is just start somewhere. Like, it's so easy to kind of like sabotage ourselves before we've even started trying to get back on track because we're just like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this and I got to do this and I got to read my Bible for an hour a day. Just start somewhere. Like whatever that is for you. Maybe that's going back to church. Maybe that's going on a hike and praying, maybe that's taking one scripture verse and meditating on it and just start there. And then you can build on that. Like, don't stop there, but just start there, like wherever works for you.
Well, I think my recommendation would be Tiffany's dad says that prayer can be very short, and the shortest prayer is help. And it's kind of funny sounding, but it's true. And I think a lot of time when you're stressed, you don't know what to do, and you're like, where do I start? Just start praying, God, help me. Just God, help. And like slowly God will start showing you what you kind of need to do next. And just be like, God, I don't even know what to do. Help. Help. And like, prayer is real, and God will answer you.
That's a great answer. Tirza, hello. Over after 5 months. Wow. Do you have any tips on how to believe in love after a breakup with a narcissist?
Or just a breakup with someone that you obviously had a strong emotional connection to.
Yeah. We do have a video too called Breakup Survival Guide. I think that's what it's called. Definitely check that out. It's with 2 other awesome ladies who've gone through some breakups and have a lot of wisdom. But I think, do you have tips on how to believe in love again? I think the first thing you have to do is mourn the relationship that is over and not just expect yourself to move on or have hope immediately, but to take the time to like grieve that. Like, that's a loss. That is really hard. And that's okay that it's hard. That's normal. And just kind of let yourself go through that process, which for some people that's short. For some people it takes a while. Yeah,
it's very tempting to try to like fast track it. Oh, I'm going to be angry. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
No, it takes
a
month easily.
For some people it takes way longer.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And then I think like as you heal, it kind of naturally, a lot of the time, you begin to have that hope again.
Yeah, and I would say to find safe people to heal with.
Yeah.
You can't really heal in a vacuum. You heal in community.
Yeah, that's good. Hello from India. And Ashley, thank you. That's so encouraging. Let's see. The Joshua Project. Each day has an unreached people group you pray for with info about them. That is so cool.
Wow.
That's from Catherine, if you guys want to check that out.
Okay.
Let's see. Brooke. I love listening to your talks. Do you have advice on long distance relationships? Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I do have a video. If you Google Tiffany Dawn long distance relationships, it should come up because I don't remember what it's called. But let's see. Something my dad said about that. He and my mom were long distance. A lot of the time they dated. And my dad said that it helped him to know that like Jesus had experienced that too. Just like that Jesus is still waiting for us as like his bride in a sense. And so like Jesus had experienced that long distance relationship. And I thought that was a really cool perspective that I'd never thought of. But I think too, like communication is key, and finding how that works for you guys might take a little time to see like what that rhythm and what that style looks like for you. But I don't know. Do you have any tips from when we were long distance?
It's definitely, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. I think you need to have expectations for what it's like. And you need to, inevitably one person is not going to like, or both people are not going to like the frequency of your communication. And so you both are going to learn to be upfront like that. Like when you don't call, like you said, it makes it seem like, blah. Yeah, like you have to learn how to express those feelings.
And to be flexible.
Yeah. But I think you want to, I don't know, you also want to give your significant other space and for them to give you space, because it's not great to spend like, if you're in a place experiencing things, both you and him, that you're both like, oh, well, I have to spend, and I want to spend like all this time like FaceTiming someone. So like, it's going to be a new phase of your relationship. Your relationship is going to look different. It could still be a healthy relationship, but it's just going to be a new phase.
You both can like be present where you are. Yeah, that's good advice.
Oh, this is such a good question from Lauren. Advice for being more assertive in life. After going on a trip abroad, I realized I acted like a follower of everyone else. How do I become a more of a leader without being bossy?
That's such a good question.
Yeah. I think that's, going on a trip abroad though, I mean, I think it's important to know, like, we're not all called to be leaders in every area. And, you might look back in 10 years and be like, you know what? I'm much more called to be a leader in another kind of situation. And when I'm traveling abroad with a group of people in a strange place, I don't want to be the leader. But I think,
good point.
If
you were all leaders on that trip abroad, that could have presented a lot of very difficult dynamics.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I think that, I think it's about finding a place where you have the opportunity and a desire to be, to lead. And we also live in a culture that's like leadership. Like, I remember when I was in like a freshman in college, I literally, anytime there was like, they said the word leadership, I was like a puppy dog. I was like, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. And I just ran around like a maniac. And I don't really think I led anybody. I was just obsessed with the idea of leadership. But I think like being quiet with yourself and with God and like asking God, where is a situation where I can serve? Because as Jesus said, like Jesus came to serve, and we're called to serve. That's what being a leader means. Is like you're the biggest servant. So where's the area where you have to serve, or you could serve?
Yeah, that's good advice. And how to be assertive is something I think I've struggled with, and I think a lot of women struggle with, because sometimes in our culture, it's not looked on positively if a woman is assertive.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so that's something that I think you grow into.
Not that you should be okay with that. You should push past that.
Right. You should push back on that. But it is like a cultural mindset. And so it's something you grow into for sure. Something I'm continuing to grow into. And I've like talked to different women who I have met and known and been like, they're really good at being assertive without being bossy. Like, what helps you? And I've just talked to different women and like that, like at my job and whatever, when I worked, not at home. But I think part of it is knowing like what's worth standing up for, if that makes sense. Because I think being assertive doesn't mean you have to always have something to say about everything. But like when you do have something that needs to be said, you can say that with respect. Does that make sense, kind of? Yeah, so kind of knowing what needs to be said and being willing to say that kindly. So I hope that helps in some way. Yeah.
This is a good question from someone. Advice on a non-driver, can't get a driver's license due to being partially blind. It concerned, that like whoever he's dating would have to do all the driving. And the pastor says not to be in a car alone with someone in the opposite sex. I honestly don't think that rule is going to apply to you, because you're going to need someone to drive you. And I think it's much more what God cares about is what you do in the car. You're just sitting there. It's totally fine to be pure in the car with someone.
We always rode in the car together alone. Like, we never followed that rule.
Yeah,
I think it kind of depends on the person and what your conviction is, but I don't think you necessarily have to follow that.
Yeah, I agree.
Personal opinion, because you're right. It is all about what's in your heart and what you do in the car. Yeah, and for some people, they might say it's not wise for me to be in the car alone, so then don't.
Right. But it's more of a case-by-case situation. A lot of times people say, here's this principle. But what you really need to do in life is you need to really think, well, what is my particular situation? How do I honor God in that particular situation?
Yeah, that's really good. I think we have time for maybe one more.
Okay.
I want to do this one about anxiety.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Do you say your name Natalie, like our daughter? Did you say it with an H in it? Because if so, that's really cool. Let's see. I've recently had a little bit of a dark period with my anxiety and find it difficult to feel deserving of a relationship with God. Do you have any tips for getting back to God? That is such a good question. And definitely check out that video I have, how to get back to God when it's been a while.
There's a lot of good advice in that.
Yeah. I think when you struggle with anxiety, so I was telling James today, actually. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Enneagram personality test, but I consider myself to be a 1 on it, which is the perfectionist. And one of the defining characteristics of the 1s is that they have this critical voice in their head, just everything they do criticizing it. Now, I was listening to this podcast with Annie Downs and a guest who's also a 1. And the guest said, you have to know that that's not the voice of the Holy Spirit. That's like a critical inner voice that you need to work through, because the Holy Spirit speaks through grace. And I thought that was really cool, because I think with anxiety, the same thing can happen. We get like these thoughts in our heads that are so negative and so like, I don't deserve a relationship with God. And it kind of plays in your head. Emily, it's so good. She has some really cool guests on there. And that, yeah, you just have to know that that's not the voice of the Holy Spirit. That can be the voice of your anxiety. And so recognizing the difference, that God's heart towards you is always love. It's always compassion. It's always redemption. It's always bringing you back. Yeah, exactly, Wildflower. And another cool thing that I'll share with you that I heard on a different Annie Downs podcast was the guest on there said, I think her name was...
I'm a 7.
Yeah, he's a 7. He's like the enthusiast, like, oh, life is good. Let's not think about any hard emotions. Let's just enjoy.
That's true.
Real stuff. It's been cool learning about ourselves. But anyway, this other podcast, the guest said, I had dug myself into this pit and I felt like I had to pull myself out before God would take me back. Like, it was my own choices that got me here. I made all these choices and I was playing with fire. I was right on the edge of this pit I dug and I fell in and then I had to get myself out. And the guest said, I felt like God told me, would you treat your kids that way? If they dug a pit and were playing next to it and they fell in, would you stand there and lecture them about how they had to get themselves out on their own because it's their mistake? And she's like, no way, I'd run and help them. And she felt like God was showing her, like, that's how I feel about you. Like, just because you may think this is my own fault doesn't mean that God doesn't want to come help you. Like, he's a good father. And so those were some things that really, those really stood out to me. So, yeah. So it's 4:38. Should we do like 2 more minutes? And then
sure.
Okay.
Sure.
2 more minutes to see what we can do. Maybe we have time for one more. What should we, let's see. What do you think?
Oh, okay. This question about heartbreak.
Okay.
So a video on self-confidence and learning to love yourself. I think that, have you done one of those?
I have done learning to like your body. I have a playlist about that, but I haven't done one on learning to like your personality, and that's something several people have asked for. So I need to.
That could be a good one.
Yeah, I need to think of what I would say. That's a really good one.
Yeah. So someone asks, is every girl supposed to have a heartbreak when it comes to love? It seems everyone around me has a heartbreak story, and it makes me scared to date.
And really, like, dating is a risk. Like, anytime you really care about someone like that, whether in friendship or dating, it is a risk because you don't know what's going to come from it. Yeah,
absolutely. I would say all relationships are a risk in the sense that, like, the person could, like, decide they don't want to be your friend, or could move away, or could pass away. I mean, all sorts of things can happen in any relationship, but that's like, relationships are like, that's the essence of life. And so
relationships are the essence of life.
Not necessarily romantic relationships.
Right.
But just like relationships with people in general.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I do know some people who have never experienced romantic heartbreak, and others who've experienced it, I think, more than their fair share.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, sometimes that's just almost out of your control. But I think it's just important to know that no matter what happens, God is going to be with you.
And honestly, like, I have this video about, I think it's called Pain and Suffering. And it's about walking through our miscarriage and how painful that was for me, and how, like, that was like heartbreak on a whole new level for me that I'd never experienced before, and how much God met me there, and how it was, like, incredibly painful, and yet he was, like, working something so beautiful in it. That sounds so cliche and, like, too easy of an answer, but I explain it more in the video. But just how sometimes it's through heartbreak that we find something so beautiful. And so, does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, I think if you're interested in knowing more, you should watch the video.
Yeah, watch that video.
It makes more sense in context.
Yeah. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm sorry we didn't get to all your questions, but we'll be here again for Sunday of next month, and we'll take some of these questions into consideration for future videos too. We love you guys. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye.